right, folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, Season 4, Best of the Rest. I'm Mike with EJ. How's it going, pal?
Well, I'm just gonna give everyone, including yourself, a forewarning. I don't feel the greatest. I actually sound way better than I did yesterday. So it's all right. I don't feel terrible, but it has been one of those scratchy throats coughs. So I have plenty of liquid near me to help a dry throat from talking, but I'm just going to warn you guys right now that I'm likely going. You might hear some coughing, and you know what? I'm going to fight through it. We're almost at the end. This is a fantastic story to be told today. So I'm going to fight through it, but just going to let you know if I sound off and if you can hear coughing in the background, it's just me. No worries.
And it's a story that's been delayed so many times. Some would argue what's wrong with delaying it again. Yeah, it's a little bit of a flu game for me too. I've had that scratchiness since since like Saturday, maybe Friday, maybe even a little bit longer than that. It really was. Sunday when we were at your house, I was just also very hungover. And that kind of continued into yesterday, Monday, a little bit. And today I woke up and I worked out. And I felt a lot better after that. I've gotten progressively better throughout the day. It's just, man, it's just that time of year. The weather's changing. I mean, it was gorgeous and now it's cold and it was rainy and it was wet. And these little scratchiness, things just be going around. And I'm exhausted because it's dark all the time. And that's life, baby. That's life. But this is what we get. The football heats up, and the weather gets cool and dark, and we have to turn to the welcoming glow of college football stadiums to lighten our lives. Such is life in November, Edmund. Such is life.
Such is life. Before we get into this episode, you wanted to have a chat.
I did.
Would you like to chat?
Want to have a chat? I would love to have a chat about the rankings as they stand right now. For those that are not aware, and if you're listening to this pod, you're likely aware, the new AP poll came out. It is very interesting. I mean, we had quite the weekend, right? Georgia got knocked off by Ole Miss, and Alabama knocked off in quotes LSU. Miami got beat finally. The refs couldn't save them against Georgia Tech. And we are looking at a very interesting top 25 as it stands right now. Ole Miss moves into the top 25 or top 12 at number 10, up 6 spots, which I think is interesting, but I think it's the right play. I think you got to put them above Georgia, given they won head to head, though you could argue that Georgia has better quality losses than Ole Miss does. Miami dropping the second most. Georgia dropped 9 spots to 11. Miami dropped 8 spots to 12, which feels right. And then Boise sitting there at 13. It feels a little disrespectful for Boise, but I guess, they're going to get that automatic bid anyways. But it's just...
They're locked into the 12 seed. Like, there's no being better than that. So
Yes. I mean, it's... The SEC is just really interesting right now because it's like at the beginning of the season we thought, wow, a lot of these teams are going to be very good. I don't know, either they're all good or they're all bad at this point with the SEC. Like they're all really good and they all beat each other, or they're all just bad because there's like this nightmare scenario too where like LSU can get back into the race for the SEC championship. Like there's a situation where you can have like 5 teams finishing 10-2 in the SEC. And then you go to all these crazy levels of tiebreakers to figure out who eventually gets to Atlanta. It's just madness right now.
Yeah, I think this is like maybe one of the instances where potentially having divisions and conferences might be beneficial. Mind you, you want these divisions to be even, and that's what the problem has been, that they have not been even. So when we've had divisions in the Big 10 or in the SEC, it's been very lopsided, right? There's been one division that's had, three or four really good teams fighting it out, and then, the other side just has like a program. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're right. It's absolute mayhem if A&M beats the Longhorns, and then you have Tennessee, just in the SEC, right? Then you have Tennessee playing Georgia this week. Yeah, I mean, there's a scenario where there's like six SEC schools with 2 losses in the conference, and it's just like that's not really good for anyone to have a tiebreaker that only picks 2 of them, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. It's crazy though. It's like it's very interesting just looking at the rankings. And it's like, oh, we got 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5, and then the whole bottom half of the top 12 is just SEC teams. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It also is very interesting because, just last week, last week I doubled down. I said this playoff race is very clear now. Like it's very clear what's going to happen. And the week before I was saying that too. And now I'm sitting here like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen because you figure the way the rankings are now, like number 12 and number 13 are Miami and Boise. And they're for sure getting like, if Miami wins the ACC, they're getting in. At this point, if Miami loses the ACC, I don't know that they're going to get in. And then you got Boise, who's for sure going to get in. So one of those teams that's up there right now is definitely gonna go away. I don't know who.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's becoming. What's also going to be interesting too is you're going to have a scenario very likely that, for instance, in the SEC championship game, where you could have one of the 2 participants in that game being a two loss team, right? So then, what do you do if you have that team lose, but they were a 3-loss conference runner up? And then there's a couple of the other schools that didn't even make it to that game and are only 2 losses because the committee has already said that they were going to wait getting into the conference championship more than, they're going to take that into consideration. So, I don't know.
You have to put them in. You have to put that team in. Like whoever the
runner-up
runner-up is,
yeah.
Have to.
Depends on who that runner-up is, right? If it's
if it's Tennessee, I say
Georgia, then I don't know.
Yeah, if it's Tennessee, you can leave them out. I'll say that. I'll say that much.
Or if it's like Missouri, like if it's some batshit conference championship that's like Missouri and I don't know, Tennessee, and Missouri's the 3rd loss, like I don't have any faith that they're going to make it over some of the 2-loss teams that's not mentioned. Not to I don't know what the tiebreakers are in that case, but I don't know. I think it's going to be tricky. I've been telling you for a while now that this could be a committee's nightmare because it's not going to be clean, and where you have 12 and there's still going to be way too many extra teams that aren't going to get in, and we're getting closer and closer to this still being the case. Like some of these will play itself out still, thankfully, but who knows? I mean, there could be chaos, right? If again, without looking at the schedule, if say like Texas loses before playing A&M. Like, not likely, but what if, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Well, kudos to you, man. You saw all this coming. I was a doubter. I was like, it's fine. But no.
It'll be fine.
There's 12 teams. There's 12 teams in this playoff, so there's not going to be any drama.
I I mean, it's good for us. Like, I'm not on the committee. This is exciting, and for everyone
Yeah.
at home, like, yeah, if you're a fan of one of these schools that is going to get screwed, it's going to suck. But like, for everyone, like myself that doesn't have a dog in this fight, it's exciting, and I'm really excited. I mean, again, I'm not. I'm hopeful the committee will make sound decisions, but we've seen them make mistake after mistake, time and time again. So, but this is important. This is going to be a new era of the playoff, which means like whatever they take into account now is going to be precedent for years to come. So, this is going to be a tricky one for them. I don't know.
And I mean, I guess actually we didn't see this given we didn't get a chance to talk about this the last time that we were on because we recorded right before the big vote, but that the nation was anxiously looking to see. But I thought the first playoff bracket looked awesome. Like it
Yeah.
was like no notes, perfect. Can't wait to see it. Um, I do think it's gonna be interesting because I think you're right that Boise State did lock themselves in as the 12 seed. Man, whoever's the 5 seed, presumably the runner up in the Big Ten, it's not a great first game to have to play.
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
Not even a little bit.
No, and I think it's gonna. Well, I like I said, I really hope that there's such a craze in that um, first round of the playoffs of seeing it on campus and
Mm-hmm.
seeing home playoff games, because I still think it's nonsensical to me that like the best 4 teams in the nation don't get to host a playoff game. Like, I get it, they get a bye,
Yeah.
but like how do you not let the 4 best teams, or whatever, you may not
Yeah.
call them the 4 best, but at least the top 4 seeds, how do they not get to host a playoff game? So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that there's so much fervor and it's so exciting and there's such like good, just things that come out of that first round when 5 through 8 get to host, that they'll change their rule next year and have first round and quarterfinals, and then semis and the national championship
Yeah.
at bowls and wherever.
I do think it'd be I really do want I think it would be hilarious if they did get Ohio. My dream scenario is Ohio State gets Boise State in the first round. And yeah, obviously it'd be great if Boise beat Ohio State. I'd also love for like if Ohio State wins for Ryan Day to get there and just be like, I wonder where Jared Zabransky is right now, talking down this program.
No, I just what we I don't know how the bracket sets up, but like we need Notre Dame and Ohio State to play again, right? We need Lou
Yeah,
Holtz to be talking some more shit to Ryan Day. Like,
yeah.
we need that. I
Mhm.
need him to ask where Lou Holtz is again. I'm all
No,
about it, but
I need Lou Holtz to be on the field and
has to
ask
be
where
Ryan
Ryan
Day.
Day is. I'd love to know where as he's walking off the sideline. I'd love to know where Ryan Day is right now. I would. Oh, funny story. So just I guess one more note on the weekend. Speaking of Lou Holtz, I was watching Alabama LSU with our resident Notre Dame fan Bridget, and she was we were talking about football and we're watching the game, and she's like, "Gosh, that Jalen Milrow, he's really good." I said, "He's really good unless he's not. Like sometimes, yes, sometimes he is really good, but then sometimes he is just not." And obviously he had a great rushing game and everything, like every rushing touch. She's like, "Wow, he's really good." Said, "Unless he's not." And then he gave like a great post game interview, and did the whole roll tide smiling thing. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I think I'm slowly becoming an Alabama fan." I'm like, "Yes, yes, come on over to the dark side bridge." So
Yeah, I think Jalen Milrow is good when he is healthy, right? I think like obviously a very key component of his game is being able to move around, and I feel like there were a few games, a few weeks ago where he just wasn't quite right.
but
And
was he not healthy against Tennessee? I mean, like he just
maybe,
made bad. I guess maybe we don't know, but just like bad decisions all the time.
yeah. I mean, and it's I don't know. It seemed like he was something lower body, which obviously then throws off his mobility, throws off your throwing, right? Like you need your
Yeah.
lower body to
Yeah.
throw, especially at the highest level. You can't just even at in college when you're playing some of the best teams, you have to be able to plant when you're throwing. So I mean, it just seemed like that game against LSU when you're rushing for 4 touchdowns and one of them like he just looked really healthy. In some of those other games, he didn't take off, and maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's strategy, maybe it's him trying to do XYZ. I don't know. I'm probably going to err on the side of something was bothering him,
Yeah.
and he
Okay.
didn't run, but. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like he played himself back into the, discussion about being, maybe a first round pick and Beck is playing himself into coming back another year. And it's going to be hilarious because if you're a Georgia fan, I mean, I don't know who's sitting behind them, behind him, but hey, you going to throw him the bag to stay again? I don't know. It's not like it's been a great year.
I'm sure another program would certainly throw him the bag to.
But could you imagine? Like that's a ballsy move, and not to say Kirby wouldn't make it, but like that's a ballsy move to say to your guy that's been hyped up and your starter for the last 2 years at a place like Georgia to be like, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
I don't see him going to pro right now. There's his draft grade is going to be terrible.
No. Yeah, I mean, it depends. He could always want to. What better place would you rather be than Georgia? So.
Well, for him, sure, but if you're the Georgia Bulldogs and you're trying to win a national championship here, this dude's good for 2 turnovers a game, and that's
might not give him the bag, right? Like, what's he gonna? Yeah. He's gonna say, "Pay me," and like, no, and then it's like, oh well, I'm staying anyways. Like, that's he could,
yeah. Yeah, we'll see. All I know is I'm looking at some of these standings for each of these conferences, and boy, when we do our review at the end of the year, this Big 12, man, mistakes were made. Big mistakes were made. Jesus, I did not realize this is the conversation for another day, but I did not realize where those Cowboys were. Like,
Cyclones are unranked now.
Oh,
I am 0-7 in the conference. Oh my goodness! So much for that ticket. I had a couple of playoff tickets for the Cowboys, and I had a couple of. I definitely had them over on their wins. Utes, yikes. Wildcats, no good. Though you were right on that one. You thought they were going to struggle.
Yeah, the Knights thought they would be way better than that.
Boy.
We buried Colorado. We could do an entire episode, which we will. So I don't want to get too far into this because we do have a great trophy to talk about today in rivalry. But yeah, even the ACC, there's plenty to talk about. Big Ten, plenty to talk about. SEC, depending on how this shakes out. I mean, I don't think we were terribly off, but one of us is probably going to be potentially right, and the other one not. Like, I don't think we're out of it in that one, any of us. But interesting. Got plenty to reflect on once we get to the conference championships, and then obviously once we get to the playoff itself. But
yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we dive in?
No, we've waited long enough for this trophy. Let's get to it.
All right. As I promised, and I will not do that to you again. We are talking about the Stanford Axe this week, and that is the rivalry game played between the Stanford Cardinal and the Cal of Berkeley.
Cal Berkeley.
Berkeley.
California, Berkeley. Just Cal Berkeley. Yeah.
Those Bears. Golden Bears? They still got the golden in front of
I believe they are the Golden Bears, yes.
Okay. All right. Do you know what this trophy looks like?
Big old axe.
Do you know, or are you guessing?
I actually don't know. I don't know. Like the only time I think of the axe is Paul Bunyan's axe. True. I don't know that I know what the Stanford axe looks like.
But you're thinking it's similar. It's
very similar. I would think, yeah. One would have to assume it's a direct knockoff.
um, okay, well, you're gonna find out, but it's gonna take us a while before we get there. First,
Okay.
we have to talk about the history of this rivalry.
Yes.
But this is going to be everyone. Sorry, hold on, pause. This is the time in this discussion that if you need to go potty, if you would like to refresh your beverage, this is the time to do it. Pause because we're going to get into it now, and it's going to be long-winded. It's going to be awesome. But here's your chance. There's your PSA. Okay, great. History. So the first game played between these two schools was in 1892, with Stanford winning 14-10. And this is called the Big Game. Within the rivalry, it's called the Big Game, and this is the oldest college football rivalry in the West. And while as an undergraduate at Stanford, the future U.S. president, Herbert Hoover, was a student manager of both the baseball and the football teams, and he helped organize that inaugural Big Game with Cal. And that was along with his friend, who was the Cal manager, Herbert Lang. Only about 10,000. I did not even see that the first time. Yeah. You're right. Herbie Hoover and Herbie Lang.
Yeah, there we go.
What a combo.
And then later on, Herbie Street. Rest in peace, Ben. R.I.P. and peace, Ben.
Oh, man, we just got the college football rankings. It's probably not too far for us to... All right, let me finish this thought. And then if you want to pivot very quickly to just initial reactions to the latest rankings, but here. So Herbert Hoover at Stanford, his buddy Herbert Lang, Bear Herbert's Cal said, "Hey, we need to have a game together." They called it the Big Game. There's only 10,000 tickets printed for the game, but 20,000 people showed up.
Wow.
Yes. And Herbert and Hoover and Lang scrambled to find pots, bowls, any other kind of like receptacles to collect the admission fees and tickets, because it was just kind of a mad scramble here. So if you just want to take a quick look at these two pictures before we get to the rankings, but this was the teams. Cal followed by Stanford of the players. Picture of the
holy smokes, the Stanford guy in the background with the mustache. Oh my gosh, is that a mustache or is that like a black cat attached underneath his lip? Holy smokes, what a mustache they had. Who won the first one? It was 14-10, but who won? Stanford?
It was Stanford, yeah.
Yeah, I give that guy the ball 1,000,000 times. You can even probably smuggle the ball in his mustache. You have no idea. Oh, there's a gentleman on the right side of the photo that has an equally impressive mustache, but it's very long and thin. Wow. Great facial hair game. Cal has a couple guys with the interesting mustaches too. No, looking good. Looking couple mean squads. You know, it's interesting because they're just sitting against these wooden bleachers here. Like 10,000 tickets were printed. 20,000 people showed up. So they had to just get things to collect fees. Imagine that. You just come into a game and you give your cash, and people just have to put it into bowls, pots, cups, whatever. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Huh. Very cool. Okay.
TV timeout. Rankings. Wow.
You think wow?
I think I wasn't. I mean, I guess it's just one loss, isn't it? Shit. I think it's interesting that there are 4 Big Ten schools in the top 5. That's usually SEC territory. So I think that's interesting. So
there's 4 SEC schools too.
Yeah, followed right, like by that, in the top 12. But for the listeners, again, we're recording this on Tuesday at 9. The rankings just came out. Obviously, you'll have seen this by the time, or maybe not. It depends on if you're going to bed. But you have Oregon is number 1, which makes sense, undefeated. Then followed by Ohio State is number 2. Interesting. Texas is number 3. I could have maybe seen those flip flop, but I guess I get the logic that Ohio State's only loss was Oregon, but I don't know. They haven't looked super impressive. Then Penn State number 4 and Indiana number 5. I love that the committee is kind of like just giving it to us now because obviously they still have to play Ohio State, so like they know that's going to play itself out anyway.
That lines up with the AP too. Like that's what the AP has right now too, which is I like it though. It's a good interesting precedent to set.
No, it's good because at this point in time they're like fucking 9-0, 10-0.
Yeah,
you can't justify no matter how easy their schedule is when it's a Big Ten school or an SEC score, or even like BYU. Okay, so they're 6th, they're right on the outskirts. Like you can't not give them respect. But it is interesting, I guess, now that I think about it. So you have 1 undefeated, followed by 3 1-loss teams, and then 2 undefeateds after that.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows you where they think Indiana's strength of schedule has been, and BYU's strength of schedule plus the manner in which they've won their games. So then you have BYU at 6.
Real quick though, I do want to say Indiana at 5. If their only loss is Ohio State, gonna have a real hard time arguing they should be left out of the playoff. I think, right? I mean, 5 and you lose to Ohio State and that's it. Given that Alabama has lost to 2 teams, one of them's not even on this list. One of them's not even ranked in the AP top 25.
I hope you're right.
I hope so
that
too.
That makes sense to me. It does.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's interesting. That's just interesting, the logic behind like Penn State at 4, because like they have such an easy schedule. Like are they just really going to be a shoe-in to get a? Oh no, they can't get a bye, right? So then this is still going to be interesting, right? Because they can't get the bye because they won't be a conference champion. So all get jumbled up again. That's interesting. But so then 6 is BYU, 7 is Tennessee, 8 is Notre Dame, 9 is Miami, 10 is Alabama, 11 is Ole Miss, 12 is Georgia, and that rounds out the top 12.
And then if you look at the bracket, Georgia's not on the bracket because BYU gets the auto bid. So Georgia's not in the playoff at this point.
I mean, if only someone had made that prediction at the beginning of
Georgia's going to be so pissed if they're the first team out again.
Yes.
2 years.
It's going to be great. Kirby's just going to lose it.
I love Kirby.
That 16 team.
I love Kirby, but I feel bad for him, but I don't feel bad for anyone else, especially Carson Beck. So,
all right. Well, very interesting, exciting. It is hopeful, like the way that they've ranked, who they've ranked, where they've ranked them. I think that's very interesting. But again, some of these games are going to knock some of these teams out of the playoff. Okay, back.
Yes, back.
We are back. We are talking about the very first game. We just talked about Herbie and Herbie. We showed you the pictures of the first 2 teams, like the teams in that first game. So now let me take you a few years later. So in 1898, Berkeley alumni and San Francisco Mayor James Phelan, with a PH. Phelan? Oh, Phelan. Phelan sounds bad. Phelan.
Sure.
We'll call him Phelan. Purchased a casting of Douglas Tilden's, the football player. Of Douglas Tilden's, the football players, bronze sculpture. So it's a sculpture by Douglas Tilden called The Football Players. And it was offered as a prize to the school that could win the football game 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. So Berkeley responded by shutting Stanford out in 98 and 99, and the sculpture was installed on Berkeley's campus atop a stone pedestal engraved with the names of the players and the donor during a dedication ceremony held in 1900. So will you tell us, if you scroll down a little bit, kind of what this sculpture looks like?
Uh Erotic, sensual. Those are words I would use. Erotic and sensual. First off, what a flex to like buy a massive bronze. Like this is a bronze statue,
Yeah.
as you would see. Like when you think of a statue of like life-size human beings,
Yes.
this is what this is.
On top
And
of a risen platform, right? Like,
yes. Yes, like a traditional statue on a college campus. This is it, and it was bought as a gift to whoever could win two in a row. Um, and that was fast. I mean, it would have been kind of cool if it went back and forth for a number of years, or maybe he's just had three in a row or something like that.
yeah.
I guess you don't want to wait too long to get the statue installed, but yeah, it's a bronze statue, and it's one football player uh, holding a football, standing up, um, with his left hand on another football player who is on both knees next to him. And that football player that's on his knees is helping to wrap the left calf of the standing football player, presumably for some type of injury. Yes, very sensual, very erotic type of statue we got here.
Yes, that's really the best way to describe it. I don't quite understand what Douglas Tilden was thinking when he was thinking football players. Like it's more like football player and like trainer.
I mean, maybe back in the day, just members of the team helped to like tape each other up. Like maybe there weren't trainers.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is definitely, this is like 50 Shades of Football right here. Yeah, 50 Shades of Pigskin.
Well, if you guys want to see 50 Shades of Pigskin, go to Berkeley because the statue is hanging out.
All right.
So by 1900, the match was referred to like so. Initially, the match was not referred to as the big game, but it didn't take long, right? So 8 years in, by 1900, it was already referred to as the big game. And during that 1900 big game, played at the Recreational Park Stadium on Thanksgiving in San Francisco, a large group of fans were observing from a roof nearby. At the San Francisco and Pacific Glass Works factory, with somewhere between about 600 to 1,000 spectators atop of it. So a lot of people watching this game from afar. And unfortunately, the rooftop collapsed, and it resulted in over 100 men falling to the factory's floor and more than 60 directly into a massive burning furnace. Yeah. In total, 23 men and boys were killed and more than 100 severely injured. And to this day, the Thanksgiving Day disaster remains the deadliest accident to kill spectators at a U.S. sporting event.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible. Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is tragic.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't even. Whoa.
I mean, if you're going to go, I guess I would hope it was
through a factory roof into a burning furnace?
Right.
I don't know, man. I don't know how quick that was.
It depends on how you fell, I guess. Like if it was far enough fall, that hopefully the fall did it. And it wasn't just like, an uncomfortable fall and then obviously like a miserable death in the furnace. But I don't know. That's crazy.
I don't know. You're sugarcoating this one. I just, no, God, no. I can't make light of this. No. I have to stop. I can't. It's that scene in Austin Powers when Will Ferrell's character Mustafa gets from his chair down into the furnace, and then I'm not dead. I'm just very badly burned. Someone come please help me.
Yeah.
You shot me. You shot me in the arm. Oh man, I can't. I need to stop. That's
Oh
a terrible
no.
tragedy. I
We're
just can't.
never getting invited to these campuses to see this trophy.
I can't.
Well, it was obviously interesting point in this rivalry. Obviously, this is not a subject, like this is not a fact that you want in your rivalry game, being the deadliest accident to kill spectators in a US sporting event. But um yeah, I thought it was obviously an interesting thing to add on to
Yeah,
this history.
that's all jokes aside. That is absolutely again, not joking about the Austin Powers thing is there's also, it just so happens I saw on Twitter there was someone who got, for his friend's 35th birthday, got him an Austin Powers impersonator to show up. I'm like, I can't imagine. On the one hand, I kind of want to do that. I think that'd be a hilarious thing to have an Austin Powers impersonator show up. But I think I'd also get a little annoying, a little creepy after a while too. The type of person just goes around being an Austin Powers impersonator. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is tragic, and that is a terrible accident. Wow, wow. Rest in peace, man. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I hope you're gonna lift this up here at some point because wow.
Yes. Yes. Well, overall, the series. So we'll kind of hit you. This is kind of going because this rivalry is so rich. Usually, yeah, I hit you with just a couple minor history of the rivalry facts, but thankfully, this is a very well documented rivalry. So I'm able to give a lot more context to these games and to the rivalry itself. So overall, Stanford does lead this series 66 wins to 53 losses to 11 ties. So pretty even.
Yeah, very even.
So why don't we transition now to some rivalry traditions? And this made me smile because
Yes.
something that I know happens with a lot of these, especially in-state rivals. But there just isn't enough documentation, open source to really talk about it. But we got some. So before the game, both schools celebrate with various different things like rallies, reunions, luncheons. So we'll go school by school. So we'll start with Cal.
Okay.
So this is their traditions for this rivalry. So the big game bonfire rally is a pep and bonfire rally that takes place at the university in the Hearst Creek Theater on the eve of the game. More than 10,000 students gather to hear the history about the Stanford Axe and the big game. And the University of Cal rally committee is in charge of planning, setting up the bonfire, as well as refueling it during the rally itself. And then specifically, the members of the UC Rally Committee, as well as freshman band members, are sent out with pallets to the chanting of "Freshman More Wood." So they get the young kids out there to keep that fire ablaze, which I actually kind of love. So several alumni show up to perform various traditional rituals, and a unique tradition to Cal is the performance of the haka, which is a traditional Maori war dance, fighting, and chant, and it's traditionally performed by an alumni yell leader. And it was let's see here. The haka performed for this rally every year was written in the 1960s by a Cal rugby player of Maori descent, which is New Zealand, correct?
Yes. I believe so.
Yes. So you guys might have seen that. I think, like, very famously, the New Zealand rugby team does haka before all of their matches, and I'm just thinking because Australia or New Zealand's usually good at rugby. So sometimes you'll catch that kind of thing on ESPN, even here in America, because obviously rugby is not that popular. But the traditional axe yell is also made. Excuse me. And there are visits from the UC men's octet and the golden overtones. So those are some of the a cappella groups on campus that help with the yell as well while they're doing the haka dance. And then the university, the Cal marching band is also present, playing just Cal songs throughout the duration of the rally. And then usually the highlight of the rally itself is the lighting of the big game bonfire, with it reaching at its zenith, sometimes over 8 stories high.
Oh man, that's awesome! I love a good bonfire, and like I think it's very cool when like having those like that type of a bonfire rally. I think it's awesome. And just have a big massive one like that. It's pretty dope. That is pretty dope. That's one thing. This is very cool because I will just say that from what I saw when game day went to Cal earlier this year, it seemed like that they do a whole lot for their football program, like to get games going, and the whole campus is into it. And this is just like more and more layers to it. Like this is super in depth.
Oh, and it's about to get more in depth.
Let's do it.
Sorry. As you guys can kind of hear, I'm doing okay, but that one was I need to take more breaks in between talking. So, the big game bonfire rally, we're doing haka dances. We're doing the yells with a cappella. We're doing Cal band, marching band songs here. So another tradition they do is they it always ends with the reciting of a speech known as the Andy Smith eulogy, or the Spirit of California. So this was written by Garf, not Garth, Garf with an F. Similar to Keith, if you guys are Righteous Gemstones fans. For the longest time, I just thought that what's the actor's name that's in the Workaholics and in Pitch Perfect? What's
Adam what's his name? Right? Yeah. Adam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Adam, what is his last name?
DeMamp?
No. Anyway, with him in the Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, Divine? Adam Divine?
Divine, yes. Yeah. So he in the show he has a friend named Keith with an F. Not Keith with a TH. So it always made me laugh because for the longest time I thought he was just saying Keith wrong, but it's actually Keith. So here it's Garf Wilson. So Garf Wilson wrote the Adam Smith eulogy, or the Spirit of California, and this is in remembrance of a fabled Cal football coach who led the Bears to 5 straight undefeated seasons, starting in 1919, before tragically dying of pneumonia in 1925. Yeah, wow, a lot of death in this episode.
There sure is.
But the speech closes the rally annually since 1949, which I think is a pretty cool tradition. So during the speech, candles are passed out amongst the attendants and are lit for the singing of the Cal alma mater song, "All Hail Blue and Gold." So, Mike, I know you're wondering, do I have that speech? I sure do. Can I get through it without coughing?
Do you want to send it to me and I can?
Yes. Is that link alive in the document? It's like let's see here, an archive.org link. I don't know if it was in. Oh, I might have deleted it. Here,
I don't see it. I just see rivalry traditions. I see big plane. But
this is great. Here, let me just chat this to you here. On
the Zoom
call.
Shoot over in the old Zoom chat there, pal.
Bang! There it is.
All right, here we go.
Garfy Garf.
Yes, a very typical way to, maybe I missed. I should have named my child Garfield.
Do you watch the Righteous? Have you ever watched the Righteous Gemstones?
No. I feel like I should probably get into that though.
You should. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious.
Is this whole thing the speech?
Sure is.
Oh boy.
Hey, listen. This is what we do for the people, guys. When we have the information, we're giving it to you. Okay? Here we go. This is the traditional end to the pep rally ahead of the big game for Cal. Tribute to Andy Smith.
I'm gonna take off my Arizona hat to I feel like I'm being a little disrespectful. I almost bought a Bear Territory shirt. I should have bought one and then donned it for this.
Yeah.
Okay. On the eve of another big game, let us pause to pay tribute to the memory of a man who has become an ideal and a legend. Andrew Latham Smith is a name which will never be forgotten at the University of California. His stay here covered only a brief few years. Indeed, his stay on Earth was brief. He died at the age of 42, and yet before death, called this beloved teacher and friend. He had reached a fame with which few men achieve, and he bequeathed a memory which will be an everlasting inspiration to those who love great sportsmanship and the game of football. Andy Smith was a great coach, one of the best the world has ever seen. His record of success was unmatched in his own time, and even today it remains a unique achievement in the annals of American football. Andy Smith was a superb teacher. He possessed the knowledge of an expert and the skill of a master technician. More than these, he possessed the ability to impart his knowledge and skill to those who eagerly sought his guidance. Friendly, forceful, and clear-headed, he communicated directly to the minds and spirits of the young men who adored him. Andy Smith was a loyal friend. He understood the doubts and troubles of people, both old and young, and was always ready to share his own great gifts with those who needed him. He realized that in a troubled world, good fellowship is a never-failing comfort, and so he cherished good fellowship above all things, and left an imperishable memory in the hearts of those who knew him. Andy Smith was a great man. He was modest and unpretending in victory. He was gallant and generous in defeat. When he achieved the pinnacles of success, he never lost the common touch. When he experienced defeat, the courage and gallantry of his conduct won him even more friends than his great victories had done. The Andy Smith story is a triumph achieved through labor, devotion, and unique human talent. The beloved coach came to Berkeley in 1916. He found a team which had played rugby for several years and knew little about American football. Oh, that's interesting. Rugby doing the hockey there. With patience and skill, he began teaching his men a new game and a new ideal of sportsmanship. He told them winning is not everything, and it is far better to play the game squarely and lose than to win at the sacrifice of an ideal.
He wouldn't be welcome at Michigan.
There was a joke to be made there. You made it. But he also told them, we do not want men who will lie down bravely to die, but men who will fight valiantly to live. And this is like getting me fired up. Like this Andy Smith guy. Yeah. Andy was successful even in his first 4 years. Then in 1920, a golden era for California football began. The team we know as the Wonder Team commenced its great career. In the season of 1920, this team won every game. Californians throughout the world were surprised and jubilant, but they little realized the triumphs which were yet to come. 1921 brought a second season without defeat. While the sports world watched in amazement, 1922 became a third perfect season. In 3 years, California football had reached the heights. Her teams had scored 1,220 points to their opponent's 81.
Damn.
How many games did they play in a season? If they played, oh my God, do that math real quick. If they played 10 games in a season, maybe that was how many they played, 10 games in a season, maybe more, maybe less. 30 divided by 220, 40 points. Wow. Okay. All right. A few people thought this record would be continued when the original players at the first Wonder Team were graduated, but they underestimated the ability of Andy Smith. In the following year, he produced another team which played 10 games without defeat. Okay, so they played more than 10 games a season. And the next season, for the fifth straight year, his team was unbeaten. Okay, so it was 10 games a season that, yeah. Uh, 5 years in a row unbeaten. Wow. So for 5 long years and through 50 hard-fought games, California reigned supreme on the football field. Is it any wonder that the homely, lovable man known as Andy Smith was praised and adored by sportsmen everywhere? In 1925, as it must to all coaches, defeat came to Andy Smith. Less than 2 months later, as it must to all men, death came to the beloved leader. He died while still at the height of his powers. It was mourned as few sportsmen at our time have been mourned. On the day of his funeral, 10,000 of his friends gathered at the great arch of the California Memorial Stadium to pay him final tribute. The entrance to the stadium, past which no one was allowed to go, was hung with a wilderness of flowers. His friends spoke the words of grief and tribute which one speaks at the passing of a rare spirit. The man who brought him to Berkeley said, "His love for the university is shown even in his final choice of a final resting place. Here he lies where he longed to be, a great sportsman, a great teacher of fair play." When these words were finished, the crowd stood silent while an airplane circled overhead. Then it dipped low. As it passed over the locked and silent stadium, it scattered the ashes of Andy Smith, as he had wished, over the field where he had worked and fought his battles, there to remain forever. As another great Californian, Brick Morse, has written, loyal friends such as Andy Smith come once in a lifetime. Such was the power of his personality that he bound us to him by stronger ties than we realized. His going has left a vacant chair around our hearthside, which can never be filled. May his sweet memory so influence our lives that when the candle flickers and our earthly light grows dim, it will be a sweet consolation to know that in memory, the toast shall be sincerely and reverently repeated to our absent brother, Andy Smith. Garf.
Garf.
Way of words, Garf.
Garf.
Wow.
That was incredible. I think that's an odd, well, one, 5 years of undefeated football. I don't care what era it was. Like that's impressive, right? And the fact that they honor that with him is awesome. I also think the fact that he had his first defeat in year 6 and then died months later just shows that like homeboy didn't like to fucking lose, right? Like
no.
He was like, no. He made himself so sick after a loss that it killed him.
Yeah. He took defeat quite seriously.
But in all seriousness, I think that's an awesome tradition that they have. I think that obviously I didn't know who Andy Smith was until, I didn't even read that all the way through when I found it. So that was really the first time I had heard it all the way through. I think that was pretty well deserving as well for someone to have that on an annual basis.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. 50 straight wins. That's wow.
After taking over a rugby team, right? Like,
yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So in 2012, the big game bonfire rally was moved to Edwards Stadium, and the bonfire was canceled due to scheduling conflicts with the Bob Dylan concert. And due to TV contracts, the Pac-12 conference rescheduled the big game from its traditional season-ending slot to October 20th. And the Greek Theater was already booked for the Bob Dylan concert, so that's why they had to postpone it. This was the first time that the bonfire had not been held since 1892.
Oh my gosh! And then let Bob Dylan cancel it. Jeez.
Yeah. And the bonfire portion of the rally was canceled again in 2015 due to the ongoing drought in the state of California. Which,
fair.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So in 2016, the Fiat Lux torch was added as a symbol of light with, in quotes, for the flames of the past, spirit of the present, and the light of the future engraved on it. So they kind of similar to what the Raiders have done for Al Davis at their new stadium with well, they had it at the Coliseum as well, but they did a much better job with it at the new Elysian Stadium. The
Yeah, that looks very regal. The picture.
Eternal Flame.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, the big game was rescheduled due to the unhealthy air quality caused by a fire. And let's see here. Oh, all fire and pyrotechnic elements were cut from the rally in 2018, and the UC Rally Committee immediately began preparations to reinvent the tradition of the traditional wood burning structure, as they did not want the fire to extinguish like it had almost 30 years earlier. So in November 2019, a new sheet metal bonfire structure was unveiled. So they were able to work through it because obviously this has been a very important tradition for them for 100 years. All right, Stanford. Let's get to Stanford.
Wow. Yeah, that was
just Cal.
Hey, hats off, Cal. Those like I said, whenever I was watching game day, I could tell they take their football very seriously. And this just cements even more. I would love is the bonfire rallies, are those open to the public, or do you have to be a student, or like what?
I mean, it's just outside. I imagine it's not like I don't think it's a ticketed event. I think it just is held on campus, obviously outside at a certain time. I feel like probably could.
Yeah. That'd be dope. That'd be really cool to go to. Now, because I have a bunch of coworkers that went to Cal, I kind of want to ask them, did you ever go to a rally, or were you just studying?
What?
Because they are some of the they're smartest people. Yeah, they're big nerds, smartest people I know. So I would, who knows? Yeah.
Did you take a break for the one football game you went to in a year?
No, I was just making groundbreaking achievements in machine learning. Oh,
right, yeah.
Fair enough. That's not what I was doing in college, but
no, yeah,
there you are, there I am. So
Stanford. So for decades, Stanford has also held a bonfire on a dry lake bed of Lake Lagunita. Lagunita.
Lagunita.
But this was discontinued in the 1990s due to the lake being a habitat for a vulnerable California salamander. So now Stanford holds the big game rally on Angel Field, organized by the Stanford Axe Committee. And this usually has appearances from the senior football players and various performance groups as it, just kind of kicks off that whole big game week. The story of the Stanford Axe is told by Hal Mickelson, and the Axe Yell is performed by the Yell leaders of the Stanford Axe Committee as well. And then the rally ends with a performance by the Leland Stanford Junior University Marching Band and a fireworks show. So there is a student-produced play, and it is called The Gaieties. And it's an annual big game week tradition since 1911, and it pokes fun at Cal and serves to pump students up for the big game. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this play. The show, set against a nice backdrop reminiscence of the main quad, begins with a group of sassy metallic toga-clad Rodin sculptures that speak with French accents and serves as sort of a Greek chorus throughout the production. The audience is quickly introduced to the Cal enemies, a mad scientist who Stanford expelled back in the day, and her sidekick, a delightfully diabolical Goonish Grubbers. They are painfully jealous that, quote, Stanford students actually live in a constant state of nirvana, end quote. So their plan is to infect Stanford's population with a love virus so that no one can focus on their work. This serves as a clever commentary on the state of the love life at Stanford, and the protagonists are distressed because Stanford cannot possibly go on if people actually date each other. So this is the kind of dorky, but
I like it.
kind of gotta have it,
Yeah.
tradition that they do every year. It seems like a pretty harmless, fun to have during the
Yeah.
love.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty good. That's that's good stuff there. Good clean fun. Good clean
Good,
wholesome
clean
fun.
fun. Another part of the Stanford's tradition was the annual hanging of the substantial Beat Cal banner upon the four-story Meyer Library building. But this tradition came to an end in 2014 before the building was demolished. But the following year, they hung it over the west entrance to the new library, I assume, that they built on campus. So they have a huge. I did have a picture, but I must have deleted it from the document. But it was it was a big, I don't know, 2-story long, 3-story wide trophy or banner. So it was big. You could see it from a while.
Mm-hmm.
It took up a lot of the building. Okay, on to the trophy. Can you please scroll down and tell everyone what you see?
There we go. Okay. Yeah. Feel like I have seen this before, so it's like ringing a bell right now. But no, there is an axe, but it is a large wooden plaque. At the bottom of the plaque is at the bottom of the wooden plaque is a bronze plaque or gold plaque or whatever, what have you, with it says the Stanford axe on it. I assume, yeah, we can get. Oh yeah, there we go. The
Yeah.
Stanford axe, forged March 1899, captured by California April 15th, 1899, recaptured by Stanford April 3rd, 1930. 1930, 1899. Whoa. To be awarded annually to the winner of the big game. And then there's, every year they're etched on there. It's the year, the winner, and the score. And then above that, smaller, um, which I guess I'll kind of elaborate a little bit. So, like I said, it's a big wooden, I guess, almost frame, if you will,
Yeah.
with a wooden background. And then, yes, the plaque is like black with like gold letters on it, a gold outline, and then like gold bars, 6 gold bars on it where they etch in the year and then the winner and then the score. And above that, it's like the very top of an axe. It's like a traditional fireman's type axe where it's like there's a wooden handle. And again, it's just the very top of it. So like the wooden handle, and then the blade is red with a silver. I guess the head of the axe is metal, with most of it being red, with the blade being silver, and then like the top part opposite the blade also being silver. Um, Love it, dig it. Looks big. It's fairly sizable. But there's a photo of the Cal team holding it up. It's pretty wide. It's probably like a foot and a half, 2 feet by 2 feet.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, something like that. But probably like 2 feet by a foot and a half tall. Yeah, very good size.
So the axe was originally a standard 12-inch lumberman's axe,
Ah,
and it made its first appearance, like you had mentioned, in 1899 during a Stanford rally when Yale leaders used it to decapitate a straw man dressed in a blue and gold ribbons while chanting the axe yell, which was based on The Frogs by Aristophanes. And this is what the chant is: give him the axe, the axe, the axe, give him the axe, the axe, the axe, give him the axe, give him the axe, give him the axe. Where? Right in the neck, in the neck, in the neck, right in the neck, in the neck, in the neck, right in the neck, right in the neck, right in the neck, there.
where?
In the neck.
Okay. And what do we give them in the neck?
Yeah, you give him the axe.
Okay.
The
Okay.
axe. The
Okay.
axe.
Got it. Got it. The axe. The axe. The axe. Uh,
Yes.
Not
So
very
Stanford
inventive
decided they
for a bunch
needed
of smart
to.
people.
No, but it's interesting that they were like, you know what would really go well right now in
Yeah.
1899 if we got an axe and we dressed this straw man up like a cow person and we cut their head off.
Yeah. Cut his freaking head off.
Yeah. So the rivalry gets its start there. However, one of the best things to come with a trophy is a theft, of course.
Yes.
So the axe made its second appearance 2 days later in April of 1899. So the first was April 13th. Now it's April 15th. At the Cal Stanford baseball game played at 16th Street in Folsom in San Francisco. Okay, that's probably like right downtown. Led by Billy Erb, the Stanford Yell leaders paraded the axe and used it to chop up blue and gold ribbon after every good play by the Stanford team while shouting that axe yell.
Yeah.
However, Stanford lost the game and the series, and the Yell leaders debated if the axe was a jinx and whether to dispose of it. But while Stanford students were discussing the fate of the axe, a group of Cal students seized it and ran off with it. It in turn was passed from student to student, and a chase ensued through the streets of San Francisco. First followed by Stanford students and fans, second followed by the San Francisco police. So just kind of imagine this. You have a real full-size 12-inch axe, and you have students screaming and chanting about cutting people's heads off.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other team then taking said axe and running through the streets of San Francisco with an axe while other students are chasing them. And then ultimately the police were like, we probably shouldn't let these 18-year-olds run around the city.
Yeah, we should maybe get involved. Yeah.
So during this chase, the axe handle was broken off.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So that makes sense why we have a very smaller portion of the axe here. Okay.
So Cal student Clint Miller, who was wearing an overcoat so he could easily conceal the axe head, was the last to handle the axe.
Oh my gosh. Just smuggled it right under his coat.
Yeah. He came prepared. This was definitely like, if you're wearing an overcoat like that, you were prepared to steal something that day.
Yeah, you're right. You woke up dressed for theft.
Yeah. So as he reached the ferry building, he noticed the police were inspecting the pockets of every boarding male passenger. So this is what Miller described. He described what happened next in a letter that he wrote in 1912. So he says, as we approached the ferry building, I saw several policemen and the president of the student body at Stanford searching the boys. I thought the jig was up. I suddenly saw a girl with whom I had gone to high school, but whom I had not seen for 2 years. She was going into the narrow gauge ferry slip. So I don't know, the little gate, I suppose. I turned and waved goodbye to the boys and ran and took her arm and went with her to the narrow gauge ferry, which went to Oakland, not Berkeley. And the boats of the ferry connected with the railroad line, commonly called narrow gauge, because the rails lay closer together than the standard width. So he says, I had no ticket to get me on the boat, and I had decided to dash past the ticket collector when I got to the gate. Had I gone to buy a ticket, I would have had to pass cops. Jimmy Hopper saw my game. He went to the ticket office, bought a ticket, rushed over, and dropped it into my pocket as I entered the gate. We got safely to Oakland that night and put the axe in the safe of Morris, the photographer.
I mean, what a heads up play by his friend to go buy a ticket, drop into his pocket, and like that. What a caper! This is maybe the best like theft story that we have, because like the fact that like you got multiple, there's a chase, there's cops involved, you got the friend coming and like coming like noticing the girl they went to high school with, getting her to come in, then your friend sees what he's up to, buys a ticket, puts it in his pocket. Like these guys are, no wonder they go to Stanford or the Cal. No wonder they go to Cal. Smart guys.
And when we think about that, this is only the second time the axe was even a thing. 2 days before the first time it was like introduced, even though it wasn't introduced for the football game in particular. So this is like the origin story. Like this
Yeah.
isn't just like a great theft. This is the origin story.
Yeah.
So recent history indicates that it's possible that Miller may have used the historic Southern Pacific steam ferry boat, Berkeley, which is at the Maritime Museum of San Diego, as the getaway boat. And from there, Miller took the axe back to Berkeley, once he got to Oakland, where it was first stored in the fraternity Chi Phi, CHI.
Maybe like their chapter room or something like that.
Okay. And then later it was in a bank vault. And then 2 days after that, Cal held its first axe rally. And that's why you had on the trophy itself, it says Cal first had it in 1899, and then Stanford had it in 1930. So let me get you to 1930. So this is when it was recaptured by the Stanford University.
Mm-hmm.
So the Daily Californian headline on April 4th, 1930.
Wait, hold on. Can you go back to that? Can you go back to that fraternity word that you said? What you said was stored in the fraternity?
Yep, it was stored in the fraternity. So just wherever.
No, but it's that the name of a room, or what were you? You said CHIPHI
is the name of the fraternity.
Oh,
sure.
Chi Phi.
Chi-Fi. Okay, I was gonna say.
Sorry.
It's never like pronounced the way that it's written. Ever.
Yeah, Chi-Fi.
Chi-Fi.
I thought that you were saying it was like that was one word, CHIPHI. No, Chi-Fi is a fraternity. Well, I guess was the fraternity. I've never heard of that fraternity though. It's probably might be long gone, but yeah.
Yeah, Chi-Fi. So, in 1930, the Daily Californian headline read "Axe Stolen." So for the next 31 years, the axe stayed in Berkeley, as I had mentioned, as a prize of this conquest. Conquest is a good way to put it.
Yes.
So in 1930, 21 Stanford students plotted to take the axe back from Cal. This group became known in Stanford lore as the Immortal 21. And Cal partisans call them the Immoral 21.
Oh.
So how Cal's protection of the axe at the time was intense. It was kept in a Berkeley bank vault and brought out in an armored car only for spring baseball and big game rallies. The Stanford group decided that their best chance would be right after the spring axe rally held that year at that Greek theater. So after the rally, 4 students posing as photographers temporarily blinded Norm Horner, the grand custodian of the axe, with camera flashes. In the subsequent scuffle, the Stanford students grabbed the axe while several others disguised as Cal students tossed a tear gas bomb at Cal students who guarded it.
Way.
The axe was taken to one of the 3 cars which sped off in different directions. Several other Stanford students disguised as Cal students further delayed attempts to recover the axe by organizing a search party away from the direction of the getaway cars.
This is like a Mission Impossible level, because when you think of like the flashes on cameras back then, they're like massive bulbs. So they got all those bulbs going off in the guy's face. Then they tear gas them.
Yeah.
Then they got wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The Immortal 21 indeed.
Although several of the raiders were caught, the axe made it back to Stanford where it was paraded around campus.
Wow. Well done.
So for 3 years after the raid on Berkeley, the Stanford axe lay in Palo Alto, a bank vault, while both universities decided what to do with it. In 1933, both sides agreed to designate the axe as an annual trophy to be awarded to the big game's winner. In the event of a tie, it would be kept by the side already possessing the axe.
I like how they had to wait 3 years to let some people graduate, and then like, okay, now we can reasonably maybe talk about this.
Right. However, the agreement did not stop students from both schools from stealing or attempting to steal the axe. Since 1933, Cal students have stolen the axe 3 times and Stanford students have stolen it 4 times. The most recent incident occurred in 1973, but on January 28th, 1978, a group of Cal students paraded a carefully constructed replica of the axe across the court of Stanford's Maples Pavilion during the Cal Stanford basketball game. This fake axe stunt led to erroneous reports in the following day's paper that the axe had been stolen. Therefore, some sources report that 1978 was the most recent theft, but in fact, it was 1973.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, some trophy traditions to wrap this up.
Yes.
Depending on which school holds the axe, the trophy's recorded score for the 1982 big game is changed. This is part of the continuing dispute surrounding the play, which I didn't realize that it was this rivalry. Like,
yeah.
You hear about the Stanford band, right? But I didn't realize it was against Cal.
Yeah.
So for all you college football fans, you've probably seen this a million times. But this is in the 1982 game. It was the final seconds of that game, which ended with a kick return marked by 5 laterals. And then during the play, the Stanford band, believing the game was over and that Stanford had won, ran onto the field. The touchdown run through the band was by the Cal returner Kevin Moan, running through a Stanford trombone player, Gary Tyrell, into the end zone. Referees declared the touchdown as legal and Cal won the game. However, Stanford contends that one of the 5 laterals on the play was an illegal forward pass and that a Cal player was tackled before he lateraled the ball. As a result, whenever Stanford has the axe, the 1982 score is changed and the trophy from Cal 25-20 to read Stanford 20-19. Despite this practice, the official score is obviously Cal won the game 25-20. Must be on the axe prior to the start of each big game, no matter who has it at the time. So they have to give it back and have it on there. But if they win it, they cover and change the score.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
So when Stanford has the axe, it's guarded by the Stanford Axe Committee and kept in a secret location. When not on display in the lobby of the Arrillaga Sports Center. When California is in possession of the axe, the chairman of the UC Rally Committee acts as its custodian. It is generally displayed in the lobby of the Martin Luther King Jr. Student Union Building. And then during the big game, the Stanford axe is displayed by the school that had won the game the previous year. The Stanford axe is transferred at the big game during what is known as the stare down. So with 2 minutes remaining in the big game, the Stanford axe is brought to the 50-yard line where members of the UC Rally Committee and the Stanford Axe Committee wait until the game to the end of the game to determine who will take the axe. Once the game ends, the winner of the big game takes the axe in possession. So they just basically have the 2 committees who are the stewards of the trophy when their school has it, stare at each other at the 50-yard line until the game is decided, which I guess in most years it's probably already decided by that point. But it's probably really intense when it's, a tie game, one possession game, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Michael, listeners, that's it. That is it. What a fantastic rivalry. What a fantastic trophy. Honestly, this is probably the most in-depth information I was able to pull on any.
Yeah.
Like we've gotten some ones that have had some traditions that I've been able to capture. I would say this is probably the most in-depth one. Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome.
Agreed completely.
Rankings. Trophy.
5. I mean, it's great looking. It's a novel type of presentation for an axe. Looks really good. It's in great condition too. I mean, that axe is this picture for 2019. It's shining. The wood's in good condition. The plaque's in good condition. Great presentation. Good size. just and love. I mean, it goes into history, but love the whole story behind why it's just the top of the axe too. So yeah, 5.
So when I first looked at this, when I was doing the research, right, it's one of the first things I do is look at the trophy before I read about it. I was truthfully underwhelmed, right? Because you think of an axe, like you think of the Wisconsin, Iowa, Paul Bunyan's axe, and you want something big and that you can actually
Right,
chop down a goalpost with, right?
right.
Then you get into the history of it, and you're like, well, how can I fucking hate an axe that's over 100 years old that broke in the middle of a thievery, like a
Yeah,
actual like students chasing, cops chasing heist, a
and
heist.
you clearly can't trust these motherfuckers with a real axe. Like that's just not going to
No,
work.
absolutely not. When you have like these chants that are being said about cutting necks,
Yeah,
um, yeah, that definitely made it a 5 for me. Like I know that's kind of bleeding into like the history of it, but I didn't understand how old that actually the axe head is that's on there. And then again, the fact that it actually was um, an actual regular axe prior to a heist at the very early stages of the rivalry. Yeah, it makes it a 5 for me.
yeah. And history fought. I mean, it helps that there was so much information written about it.
Yeah,
But like, I just find it hard to believe that some of these other trophies that we have a hard time finding history about that they have as rich of a tradition as this,
yeah,
because this is like if you have a story like this, it's probably going to get told at some point. Um, hey, maybe we're wrong. Maybe there's some stories out there that we were light on the history, but I mean, that is just everything that went into it, and over 100 years. Oh, love it, love it.
yep,
5.
easy 5.
Yeah. Rivalry itself, again, 5. Like these guys clearly hate each other, clearly have for over 100 years. Yeah, a lot of hate, a lot of vitriol.
Yep, same with me. 5. Anytime you have in-state rivalries, I mean, again, you don't necessarily. There's times in which you um, think about Cal or Stanford football. Most of the time, you don't, and then you definitely don't when like as both of them having. I feel like when one's good, the other one isn't. Is usually
Mhm.
how that goes. But I mean, the rivalry, being an in-state rival, being very close to each other as well.
Yes.
I wonder how many miles it actually is. You just have to get around the bay. That's the biggest. Like,
Yeah.
if you could just do a straight shot, it's probably, I don't know. I have to guess. I don't know, 20 miles maybe, but I'd be curious to see what it was having to go around the bay. Because I guess Berkeley's a little bit further north of, right, northeast
Yeah.
of downtown and then Palo Alto South.
Let me see. I'll pull that up here. Well, I pull that up. Competitiveness. Boy, yeah.
We got to scroll back up to the top to see what it was.
It was 63 to 55 or 55 to
66
11
to 53, and
to
then
11.
11 ties. So
Um,
plus 13 for Stanford.
hmm. Um,
I mean, I can go. For me, that's
yeah,
that's
go.
that's a 5. I mean, when you're within 15 games and then you had 11 of them ties, you've played each other so annually for so long. I mean, I think 13 is a pretty solid number. And then when you're thinking about um, just recent history, like I don't know. I mean, I guess I could give you an actual answer here. And not speculate, but I feel like there hasn't been like big streaks, I don't think, in recent
Not that I can think of. No.
yeah, like not that I'm always paying attention to it, but I don't think there's been, like a 10 game winning streak recently or anything by either school, but I can tell you that right now. So, oh,
By the
actually I
way,
lied.
it is a 39-mile drive, and you probably don't save much if you went as the crow flies. So Um, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I'd say between 2010 and 2018, there was, what is that? Nine straight wins for Stanford.
Okay.
And then Cal is one. But then, so you had like, yeah, so it's actually been pretty streaky. That's interesting. Of recently. So you had Stanford win a few in a row. Then, so you had in the mid 90s, Stanford won seven in a row, followed by Cal winning five in a row. And then you had Stanford winning nine in a row, followed by Cal winning four of the last five. So,
Oh,
yeah. So it's been streaky at times, but I don't know. For me, I think that's still pretty reasonable within 13 games over 100 years of playing each other.
hmm.
I'd say that's pretty damn close.
Yeah, I would say so too. Yeah, it's a five for me too. I was debating if I wanted to have two I mean, it's crazy to think, right? Two back to back perfect games, but yeah, might as well. That's worth it.
Is what it is, man. It's where we if we had done this one earlier in the season, it still would have given us the same record, and it probably would have really disappointed us the rest of the year.
Yeah, yeah. Top tier. Top tier. Wow,
Easy.
two perfect games, best of the rest. That's why they call it best of the rest, folks.
And
Uh
then I was gonna say this game will be played this year at the end of the year. So this was one of the games that's rivalry weekend. It's in Berkeley this year, but we also have another great, fantastic trophy to finish the season on in 2 weeks. Ugh. Um, so we decided to move this one up a little bit, but you can see it live on the 23rd, and we will give you a reminder the week of when we do our final trophy of the season. Would you change anything? I mean, our scores kind of indicate no.
can't say I would. I can't even I don't even want to talk about changing
Yeah,
anything. It feels disrespectful to such a great trophy. So
yeah.
how about you?
No, I mean, you could get creative in XYZ, but I think like the history of this trophy and what it and that story of the heist and everything and all of the years of people on both sides trying to steal this thing. Like now, this is one of those ones where when we start to think of it, it's really interesting because we've Mike and I have thought about rivalries that don't have trophies and what those
Hmm.
could look like. And obviously, we when we come across a trophy that we think is just okay or bad, we like to give our opinion. And a lot of the times, it's rooted in okay, well, let's talk about the schools, let's talk about where they're located and things of that nature, mascots, colors, and but sometimes when you have a genesis of a trophy like this where it has nothing to do with that, but it has everything to do with the rivalry and why it's just an important icon, then you don't need to, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, sure, we could give you an example of something with blue and what crimson, is that what their technical color is?
might be
What
Cardinal.
yeah,
Cardinal
okay, yeah,
red.
you're right,
Yeah,
Cardinal. But it just you don't need to. Not with
yeah.
the history of this, especially
Yeah.
that heist at the beginning. Like,
That was quite a caper. Yeah.
so that's gonna do it for us this week. Follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, for all of our Pick'em Challenge people, we are coming to the end of the road, and this is just
Thank God.
we hate getting to this because it means college football is coming to an end, and it is. But we only have, I believe, um, two more regular season weeks of our Pick'em Challenge, and then we do the No Biscuit Championship week is when we finish. So it's a tight race. We have Mike and
Josh,
two
Josh
others
and
at the
Nathan.
top.
Hmm.
And then there's, I think, six of us total. within 2 points of each other. So it's the last couple of weeks have really kept people around because no one's been able to separate from the pack the last couple of weeks. So
the boar's just been
exciting.
it's been a bloodbath out there. It's been tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I nailed my biscuit and then went 0-3 on Saturday. So
Yeah.
it's been rough. Yeah, Josh was like, "Well, shit, I just went 0-3 this week." And I'm like, "Pal, me too."
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah, it's been rough, but going to be very exciting push at the end. So just to let you guys know, and if you are in our Pick'em Challenge and you're not listening to our episodes, well, sucks. So hopefully you're keeping track. So join us next week when we stay in the state of California. We talk about 2 other schools and another victory bell. For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.